Alrighty, folks, welcome to Back to Divinity. Super excited to be here with you all again. Today's topic, we're going to be talking a little bit about what spirituality means for me. For the past 2 years, I've seen the term spirituality kind of grow in and of itself, and the way in which it's being used in today's society, I think can be very vague and very broad at times. And I want to have some sort of deeper conversations around what does spirituality really mean and what does it look like, and why is it a thing that's kind of on the rise right now, right? Alright, so let's just dive in. So honestly, for me, it's a lot. There's a lot that goes in there. I know last week I started dissecting a little bit about how 2020 to 2024 sort of played a role in shaping the foundations that exist within me and my relationship to myself, my inner self, my higher self, my spirit, right? And things of that sort. So in 2020, I had a lot of conversations around who is faith, right? Like who is she really? Spirituality starts with doing that inner work. A lot of people like to call it shadow work. And so shadow work just kind of means you're sitting with yourself and you're thinking about, how is it that maybe my shadow isn't controlled here, right? How is it that maybe my ego is leading the boat here? How is it that maybe, I'm approaching this from a different way than I would like, right? It's that level of self-accountability. It's sitting with yourself and thinking about, ooh, you know what? I might have approached that relationship with some toxic patterns. Let me think about where those patterns came from, right? It's that mentality. It's about sitting outside of yourself for a second, right? I think so often we're so quick to jump to how the other party could have done something wrong. And I think we fail to really sit with where we were in that process, and not just like, where we were when we met that, I'm just using our relationship as an example, friendship, whatever type of relationship, familial relationship, right? Wherever we are in that relationship with that person, we have to think a little bit deeper than that person, right? Sometimes it's a lot deeper than just the situation that's in front of us. Sometimes it goes deeper all the way to childhood, right? Sometimes it goes to how is it that you felt about yourself when you were younger, whether something was shut down that needed to be cultured and it wasn't, right? And so the point that I'm trying to get to is that there's a lot of mirroring that goes on between ourselves and the rest of society. We need to start looking more intentionally, right, about why we're calling in the relationships and the friendships and things of that sort that we're calling in. So if you're finding yourself constantly exhibiting similar patterns in your relationships, then it might be useful to take a second to really just sit with, how am I approaching these relationships? What seems to be consistent on my part that's causing for this to go the way that it is going, right? And I think that that's what happened to me in 2020. I started to take a closer look and dissect myself and kind of like how I was allowing for certain things to play out and playing the victim mindset. And victim mindset isn't going to take us anywhere. So it's a matter of taking that power back and really thinking about, oh, wait a minute, let me fix some of my own projections, right, that I'm putting onto this. It's okay for you to know that whatever someone else is doing is not sitting right with you. That's fine. But just take a second to think about, why am I experiencing this? Because I promise you, it's happening for a reason. And there is definitely something within yourself that is playing a role in the dynamics that are happening in your life. So it's about taking accountability a lot of the times. And I think that for me, spirituality kind of opened up that door for me to really think about my role in my life and how I was causing for things to happen and how I was allowing things to happen, rather than just saying, oh my God, why is this happening to me? Why is everything against me? Why is everything, causing me pain and suffering and confusion and questioning? And I think it's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Did you forget that you were a co-creator with Earth? Let's run that back. Did you forget that you were a co-creator with Earth? Okay. Because that's a huge superpower within and of itself, right? A lot of people like to refer to life we're living in as like the Matrix. Well, okay, whatever you call it, whether it's the Matrix, whether it's heaven, whether it's whatever it is that you are calling Earth, just know that you are a co-creator with it. Whether it's a game to you, you better be the master manipulator of that game, right? And so I think that that's what spirituality is. It's like recognizing that the power is not outside of you. When you're praying, you're not just praying to an external source, you're praying to that internal source. And that internal source is then being empowered and is doing what it can do now in the 3D in order to get you where you need to go, right? And so that's the power of sitting with some accountability work and some shadow work, as the spiritual community nowadays would call it. Okay, now let's go a little bit further, right? So I know I've talked about sitting with yourself, but now a big thing is grounding. Grounding. I'm wearing green right now. I'm outside near, brown and green colors. This is huge grounding energy. Hence why I like to do my videos here. I need to be grounded as a Gemini brain. But grounding is super important. So what does grounding mean? Grounding is getting us to think about, how can we just calm down, center ourselves, really get into a meditative state, right? A meditative trance, sort of. And so for me, some of the things that helped me with grounding is literally wearing green colors, earth tones, being around earth, right? Being near soil, leaves, plants, things of that sort, right? Water, fire. But it was also so important for me to really sit with, okay, am I spending enough time in a higher vibration, right? Because for me, I kind of equate grounding with being in a higher vibration. And let me explain that a little bit further. There are times where I'm about to start doing something and I'm like, oh, I am all over the place. Like I am, my energy is scattered. I'm feeling restless, right? That's not grounded. And it makes it so that when I approach my work, it's not at the level in which I would like. But when I approach something from a more grounded place, I'm very clear. I'm very at peace. I'm not worried. I don't have these doubts. My anxiety is not through the roof, right? I'm just more centered, right? And being centered is where you want to be, because it opens up a direct line of communication to your inner source or your higher self, right? Whatever it is that you would like to call it. Right? Because that inner voice, as I know I have highlighted in the previous video, is what we're going to try and focus on getting everybody to get to. But you cannot get to your inner voice unless you are literally committing yourself to grounding yourself as much as possible, right? Especially if you live in the city and grew up in the city like me, it can be very, very easy to remain ungrounded. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of people around. There's a lot of drama, a lot of energies, right? Some very dark, some very positive, right? And it is just up to you to feed into which one you're going to feed into, right? And so ultimately, in order to get to that inner voice, there has to be some sort of intentionality when you're waking up of like, you know what? How am I going to make make sure that I am choosing to be grounded today so that I can move through life from a very calm and peaceful place, right? So grounding is a really big one because that's going to connect you to your inner voice and make it so that you feel really confident in your decision making throughout the day. Also, when you approach the day from a really grounded place, I promise you that you're going to look at that subway ride with a lot more happiness and grace and compassion for the people around you than you would otherwise. Trust me. A morning in which I do a 5-minute meditation will make it so that the person sitting next to me who decided to sit next to me when the whole car was empty did not annoy me. But if I did not meditate that day and I walked into that train and that person decided to sit next to me rather than anywhere else, I would probably be more likely to be annoyed. Why? Because my energy is not grounded and I'm too much into the 3D, right? And so grounding for me really means releasing that attachment to the 3D and just taking a second to be like, we're okay, we are safe, we are well, we are loved, right? Like that's the energy of grounded. It's not having that questioning going on. It's just that level of knowing, that faith, that deep faith and trust. Okay, so now we talked about stillness, we talked about grounding, the inner voice, right? Seeing ourselves in the other, right? Mirroring, the power of mirroring that exists in society, and accountability, that self-accountability. But now another really big thing, and this might push some people away, to be very frank, right? Some people I know have some of their own ideas as to what the afterlife holds, right? However, Faith Rodriguez, Back to Divinity, right? We are here to fully be accepting and open to others' beliefs and what other people have to say, because I love soaking up information, and that is why I'm making this community in the first place, not only to share my own, but to also learn from you all. But I would be doing all of you a disservice if I didn't share something that, holds true for me. And that is that there are lifetimes, plural, right? And so something that I deeply believe is that we are souls incarnated on earth, right? Living these journeys in our human vessel. But something that really stands out to me is that this soul remembers this life in and of itself, but that this soul has also experienced other lifetimes, right? And how those lifetimes are very, very pivotal to my soul's journey and my soul's ascension, right? But unfortunately, I was dropped off on this earth with no remembrance of what that soul has experienced prior, or how that soul has prepared for the journey that soul has contracted to in this life. And hence why I'm not saying she when I'm referencing my soul and talking about my soul in third person, because I'm just going to remove gender from the equation. I'm not sure how gender is described in the divine realm, so I am not going to pretend to know, and I'm just going to leave it as, gender neutral. One other thing that I want to continue to highlight with lifetimes is this big, big term that everyone talks about. Karma, right? Everyone talks about karma's up, right? And then we also talk about karmic relationships and, karmic past and things of that sort. And, karma's going to come back to get you, or whatever the case is, right? And this is what I believe true about karma. I believe that karma does exist in our society. I do believe that we need to stop saying life isn't fair, because life is fair. Life is fully fair, right? But I think it'd be a lot easier for us to see the fairness if we can just zoom out of our lifetime and see all the other lifetimes within it all together. However, right, that's not something that we are all necessarily gifted with, or all are dropped onto this earth with that remembrance. Unfortunately, that's what Back to Divinity is all about. It's getting us to remember, to go back to that divinity, right, that we were with before we were outside of that womb, right? And so thinking about that karmic path, right? There are certain things that I believe that as souls, we are contracted to experience in our lifetime. And it's not just for any stupid reason or for any silly thing, right? It's not just because God decided, I'm going to pick on this person, or I'm going to make life hard for this person, or I feel like messing around with this one today, right? Like, no, it's not even like that. The reality of the situation is that everything that's happening is not happening to you. It is happening for you, right? It is happening for your utmost growth. And that is what changed the whole ballgame for me, because I started to see certain patterns in my life and certain themes be highlighted across all of my relationships, family, love, friendships, things of that sort. Right. And I started to realize, wow, it can't be a coincidence that I keep feeling and I keep experiencing the same challenges and hiccups between all these different people, places, and environments, right? Just the same thing in a different body, in a different space, right? There has to be a deeper reason. And that's what I started to realize, right? Like, this person didn't break my heart because they were being mean. Like, God didn't send this person to my path so that he can just stomp on it. Like, no, like, that's not why these things are happening, right? And I think we need to stop victimizing ourselves sometimes and just claim back that power. You are the co-creator. You are working with Earth. And trust me, having faith means that you are believing and trusting that God is guiding you through this journey, right? Not for your utmost failure, but for your utmost good. And not just your own, but for that of the collective, right? And I think that that's like a really hard place to get to. Don't get me wrong. I do not expect for me to be saying all of this and then for you all to be like, sitting at home taking notes or mental notes and being like, yeah, I'm going to do this and watch tomorrow. My whole life is going to be different. Like, no, right? I'm not, I'm not oblivious. I'm fully aware. And I want to warn you all, right? That this is a journey. And this is still something that I am continuing to learn and be challenged with to this day. Do you think that something bad happens to me and the first thing I say is, oh yeah, don't worry, like that's all good. God knows what he's doing. I might be a little sad today, but it's fine. Tomorrow will be better. Don't get me wrong. I've gotten there. I have gotten there. But for the most part, I still find myself sometimes being like, but why, God? But why? But why isn't that playing out for me? I can't see. I don't understand the vision. Tell me why, right? And the reality is that sometimes we're not supposed to know the whole thing. And that is a part of the journey. It's surrendering to the things that you cannot know yet, or that you should not know yet, because you never know if that piece of information you would have self-sabotaged, right? Or that piece of information would have changed the way that things needed to go down for your utmost growth and therefore the collective's utmost growth, right? And so that was a lot that I just threw at you guys, but I feel as if it's really, really important information because it is at the root of what I consider to be what changed my whole life. You know, what changed how I wake up in the morning, how I approach my day to day, right? What changed how I approach my relationships, all types, right? What changed how I approach my career, my relationship to work, what changed how I approach my money, my relationship to money, you know, my relationship to wealth, a wealth mindset, right? All of the above was altered as a result of everything that I mentioned throughout this video, right? And it's okay if you resonated with certain parts of this video and not the others. It is okay if you believe that we are on a soul's journey, but you are still not there when it comes to the past life thing, right? That is okay. Trust me. I was not there all with everything right away. It took me throughout the years, right, to really piece things together and sit with what feels right for me and what doesn't feel right for me, right? And through that time, yes, I have gained the confidence to be able to be like, you know what, I feel really, really strongly about this sentiment. And it also is a huge part to be able to a part of the spiritual journey to be able to sit there and be like, you know what, I don't know the answer to that question. And I can't tell you if fate or free will is the one that's the driving force here. I cannot tell you the answer to that question. That's one that I still struggle with to this day. But what I am going to proudly say now is that along my spiritual journey, I have built the inner compass, the inner voice, right? And have engaged with that inner dialogue to be able to understand what feels right to me and what doesn't, and what therefore feels right for my soul's growth journey and ascension. And so again, shared a lot in this video, but everything that I said in this video is super pivotal and super important to the soul's journey. So if you need to run this video back and take note of some of the things that really stood out to you, I highly recommend. I am going to dissect a lot of these topics throughout the time that we continue with Back to Divinity, and we are going to hear a little bit about some of the other spiritual journeys that are around me, and that I'm excited to share with you all because I want you to see that this is something that a lot of people are facing on a day-to-day. I want the collective to be understood in this journey and not feel like this is all love and light all the time and that we have all the answers, right? Because we don't, right? And that's what this journey is about. It's about being okay with not knowing, but then doing what you can with what you do know. So I'm already starting to grow so much love for this channel because it's expanding my heart space day by day. I feel it. I'm really excited to see where we continue to grow and see the topics that we continue to dissect all together. But please give me your commentary. Even if you feel like you don't know how I'm going to respond to it, please just give me the commentary. If you're like, Faith, I really need to hear more about this past lives topic. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. Feel free to say that, okay? Because that's what this is about. It's about us communicating with each other and trying to get to where we want to get to together. Now, if you're one of those people who completely are like closed-minded, then don't even engage in conversation because I'm not here for that. Alrighty. Bye, folks.